My name is Liza Hausman. I'm the Vice President of Industry Marketing here at Houzz, and I'm going to be the moderator today. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions as we go through this training, please use the Q&A tab and chat me your question, and I'll make sure that we get it answered. I'm excited to introduce to you today Steve Nickel. He is a client service manager here, client success manager, I should say, service and success here, client success manager at Houzz. And he's here today because he is an expert in all things Houzz Pro and is going to take us through the account fundamentals in CRM today. So welcome, Steve. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to hand it over to you now to kind of walk through the agenda and then jump into the training.
Great. Thank you, Les. I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. I really appreciate your time. Houzz is very excited to always do as much training as we can possibly do. We really love to, spread as much industry knowledge as we can out there, not just related to Houzz, but the industry in general. So again, thank you all for your time. We do understand that your time is very precious. So we will do everything we can within this effort to try to minimize your time here and your effort within these back-end tools so that way you can be in front of your clients. So again, thank you all so much for your time. We will go ahead and get right into it. So the first area I'm going to take a look at with you, and let me share my screen here. So this is your Houzz Pro landing page, or excuse me, your Houzz landing page when you first come on. So one thing to always keep in mind, this is a great way to kind of gauge where you are within Houzz. If you see the green icon, that means that that is a visible area from client's perspective. So this is as if the public is viewing it. So anything that has a blue icon is the backend tools for Houzz Pro. So that relates, it makes it easy for you to kind of distinguish between the two. So just a nice little piece to keep in mind there. Just again, to go over something very brief and easy. If your client comes into this area, one of the things that they're going to see is that they can start off by just looking through photos, getting ideas. They can come and find a very specific professional that they might want, or they can even utilize the marketplace if they have a need, or if you guys want to interact and review any specific material you would like to use on a project. All right, so the first area that we're going to step into is team members. So the first thing you want to do is you always want to click and jump into this top right to go to your Houzz Pro page. So this is your landing page for Houzz Pro. It's basically a dashboard. We have another meeting that was already done, I believe it was yesterday, that kind of has a deep dive into the dashboard. So we have a great video that is available online for you to take a look at this area if you'd like to get more in depth. One thing that's very nice is Houzz has just a number of tools that we offer, especially help tools. So anytime you would like to come in and start to just utilize some of the tools, and maybe you don't want to reach out to your CSM or get support, you're just trying to work on it, maybe in the middle of the night. This is a great way for you to kind of come in and start to play with those areas on your own. All right, so we'll get first started by jumping into this area. This is really important. This is your settings. Your settings is kind of your hub. So this is where you're going to make all of your changes that you may need related to your account. So one of the first areas you want to come into is there are a number of areas that are already called out that we will be touching base on, but I want to make sure that I show you that you can come into this, and it's very nice because it kind of breaks it out in the different sections. So very easy little modules to jump into when you need to work on any of these different areas. So the first one we're going to look at here is team members. Team members are an essential part of your Houzz Pro. So with team members, one thing that you always want to keep in mind is there are going to be two types of team members that you can really build in. You can build in your team members, which are your internal team members, and they are going to have a different access level than some of your subcontractors and vendors. So one of the things it's very easy to do is you can see I already have a couple of pre-created ones, and you'll notice that there's a little pending symbol here. And when I hover over it, it actually shows that what I did is I created this team member. So I actually started by just starting to create Joe Smith and his email. And within that, what you can do is once you have created the user, Then you define their role. If you have pre-created roles, then you can just pick the team member and it'll automatically associate all the roles that you've built for team members. Now, one important factor here is that if you don't have it built, after you create the first one, you can save that as a template for your team members for that moving forward. And you can do that for anything that you would like. So you can do it for your vendors. You can do it for, especially one thing that's very, very important is if you have a bookkeeper. Now, with the bookkeeper, this is an important factor here. These features that relate to the QuickBooks integration, reporting, and time and expenses with rates is not going to be visible to most team members because they don't need to know the financial aspect of it. They only need to know the physical build pieces. So if you're building a bookkeeper, I would certainly recommend that you might want to build them as a separate team member and then make sure you are calling out those specifics. Once you do that, you just hit the invite button. And what that simply does is it sends an invite over to your team member. Your team member will then go and create their own account. And then they will have access to your dashboard and all of your items. It's important to keep in mind, though, that team members do not have the same abilities as the administrator. So we'll go over a few of those pieces as we step into the next parts, but I just want to make sure to call that out. And then down here, you can see that now you can see that Joe is here after I created him. And you can see that I hadn't had any, or excuse me, it's this one as a matter of fact, because you can see the time frame of when I created it, just created it and sent it today. If you ever needed to, you can resend the invitation. You can remove the person or you can edit their features. So a great way to do that as well. And then that automatically defaults to the team member settings. You can also come over here and jump in and do the same with your subcontractors. So again, very easy, very simple way to set it up. But what's really important about bringing your team members in, and Liza, I just want to check, were there any questions?
No, we're good. We're good right now. I will definitely jump in as they roll in.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And right. I will tell everybody, please don't be shy. Chat your questions. If you have them, other people probably do too. And these are always super valuable when folks ask questions. So please do. Yes, thank you. And again, even if it's a question that we can't answer today, we will absolutely take it back. And then when we will get a response out to you as well. So the next area that we want to go to, and again, what I'll do is I'll just jump through everything from the very beginning. So that way, again, this is sort of a teaching point. So let's take it as if we're starting all over again. All right, so if instead of doing team members, you have your team members now built up. Now, one of the next things you want to make sure to do is you want to come back into here, and you can see calendar is listed here. But again, I'm going to open up all the settings just so you can see it. We want to come into your calendar. This is an important area, especially if you're utilizing Houzz Pro's CRM to schedule meetings. This is a great way for you to actually link your calendar. So you can see I have my Google Suite linked up to my Houzz Pro. And what that does is it actually allows me to utilize my calendar in relationship to me booking meetings. And that's exactly what you'll be able to do here. Steve, let me just clarify for folks, because we've got questions. At the top, there's a series of integrations here. This first one at the top where it says, calendar, your calendar is connected, right? It says that because Steve has already connected his calendar. If he hadn't connected his calendar, the options would be there. Below that are something different, which is the video conferencing integrations that we offer. So we actually do make it super easy. Steve, I don't know if you're going to go over those next, but I just wanted to make sure folks were clear on the difference between the two and the fact that because your calendar is already connected, they're not seeing all the options. But we do want to tell them that all the calendar options pretty much that you could possibly use are there for the integration, whether you use Google or Outlook or anything else, no problem. Correct. And thank you. I appreciate the clarification. And then, yes, on the video conferencing end of it, that would be where the Google Meets and the 8x8, if you happen to use Google Suite. There's also a number of other integrations that you can utilize. A lot of people use Microsoft Teams. Obviously, a lot of people use Zoom. And then there's also GoToMeeting. So those are all ones that you can integrate as well. It's very easy setup. It's very simple to do, but if you ever get stuck, again, you can always reach out to either your CSM or to our support team. That way we can definitely help you out to get that fixed for you.
All right. So if we're going to do any kind of booking, whether that be a video conference, a phone conference, or even an on-site visit, you would want to come down here within your settings and make sure that you have it set up the way you want to interact with those clients. So you can see right here, the default is going to be a phone call for 30 minutes. And this is actually the link that you could copy this link and put it into an email, put it into an email marketing blast, or put it into even a text message if you have that connected ability to send that to your clients. And then with that, it's very important to always have the default that you most prefer, because this will be what the copy link is always going to be associated with. And then within that, these are the options you have, but these are the settings against each of those options. So you can create a different meeting type, but you'll automatically already have these pre-built ones for you that'll exist there. And the best thing to do is just come in and take a look at the edit features and make sure that the timeframes match up to when you would be available to meet up with your clients. And if you connect your calendar, what's nice about that is it's going to block out times that you already have pre-blocked on your calendar, so you won't get that doubling of events being booked against you. So if you link your calendar, that's going to be a huge benefit to you, because it's going to make it very easy for both you and your client to always be on top of it and never have that double booking issue come up.
So Steve, we've got a clarification and a question. So the first that I wanted to point out here on meeting types is that you can create as many as you want so that you can have custom time frames. So let's say you want to have both a half an hour and an hour long phone call available, or you only want half an hours on Mondays and Tuesdays and hours on Wednesdays and Thursdays. You can create as many variations, or maybe on Wednesdays you're only available from noon to 3. You can create as many variations and save them so that only when you're available is displayed, and with the right type of meeting type. So that's pretty unlimited, and a kind of a great way to work around different time frames on different days. Great option. And then we had another question back kind of on Teams, which is, does everyone have to have their own Houzz account to be added as a team member? And the answer there is no. They're basically, added as part of your company when you add them as a team member. Certainly with subcontractors and vendors, if they want to create a Houzz profile or account, they can, but it's not required. You simply have to provide their email address and contact information. Anything to add there, Steve?
Yeah, and just to also clarify on that, what that means is that the admin is the main account, and then they are all subs underneath it. They have their own access points, so they are still logging in under their own credentials, not under the credentials of the admin, because the admin has a different level of need than those individual team members. So just keep that in mind.
Great. Yeah. And it's also a great way to make sure everybody can get support. So when you add your team members, they'll be able to get support, file support tickets associated with your account. And again, have control over the areas that you want to give them. And we do have another question for you, Steve. If the calendar is linked to the timeline, will that affect time available for meetings? I'll let Steve pull this up, but the short answer is no. So your calendar is the master calendar, your own calendar. The timeline, and I think we cover that in our second session for Build Academy, and we're not covering it necessarily today, but the timeline is basically kind of the longer term project schedule. And while you can add tasks and other things that will appear on your calendar, it doesn't affect anything else that you're scheduling. So the timeline within Houzz Pro is much more a project scheduler with dependencies. So you can say, hey, here's when this work is being done. Here's when this next phase of work is being done. And you can get that master view and see that overlaid on your calendar, but it doesn't affect or overwrite anything on your own personal calendar when it comes to kind of booking meetings. It's more just another way to view what's happening with the project. Great questions. Keep them coming.
Yeah, that's correct. And think about it. Think about the timeline, like Microsoft Project. So if anyone has utilized Microsoft Project, it operates in essentially the same way. So yes, dependencies have a big impact, but they are not related to your calendar events. All right. So again, let's just go down here really quickly and just make sure that we just go through it all. So just really quickly, make sure everyone understands that. Please, if you are going to do, phone conferencing, video conferencing on sites, please make sure to edit the settings accordingly, as Liza had mentioned. And again, you can do a breakdown and you can duplicate these as many times as you need to for as many days as you need variation. So just definitely keep that in mind. And then also, if you do happen to have an interest, you can promote video consultations on your account. So there's a way, depending on your account level, you would be able to actually promote the video consultations with your homeowner so they can actually see that, which is really nice because some prefer to have that visible connection. So just keep that in mind if you had ever had an interest in that. And then also, if you ever needed to unlink a calendar, let's say you had a calendar or you have multiple Google accounts and you just realized that I don't want to use this one any longer, we're going to start using this one more often. You can unlink the existing calendar and then link your new one in its place right up here where the settings would be if you did not have a linked calendar. So very easy to do. And I'll show you really quickly if I believe that should do it. There we go. I won't do it now just because it might take too much time, but it's a very simple way to unlink the calendar. And again, if you ever have any questions, need any help at all, our support teams are always here to help you. Our CSMs are always here to help you. So please keep that in mind. And as well
sorry, Steve, I know we're going to go into the CRM, and I think it'll also be easier for people to see how this is integrated once we jump in there and they can see sure. where these meetings show up. So stay tuned.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So we will jump into our next section, which is going to be online payments. Now, online payments is definitely one that can be very helpful for you. Essentially, online payments is where you can recoup your funds from your clients directly through the online payment structure. We utilize Stripe, which is a third-party provider. They are the same people who control it for Amazon, for Google. So it's a very well-protected, encrypted style of online payment structure. So you can be very rest assured that it's going to be very easy to use and very well protected. Our rates are very competitive. We have 3.1% for credit cards and 1.0% for ACH in the United States. And you can set those costs because of that amortized additional cost that comes through. When you set up your company with online payments, because basically what you're doing is you're setting up your routing number and your account number, similar to what you might do for your direct deposit for your own personal. So with that, what you would want to make sure to do is that you can actually define within here when you're setting it up, you can define if you want the additional fee to be directly associated to the client, or if you utilize our Houzz Pro CRM tool, you can also actually use that into a markup where you can either have the markup be visible to the client or not. So it just depends on the structure of how you utilize those costs and how you need to associate them. So there's a lot of different options there for you. So it should make it pretty easy for you when you do happen to go down that road. And again, very, very simple. Once your clients are set up on Houzz Pro, or excuse me, once you are set up on Houzz Pro, then you can invite your client to also set themselves up with Houzz Pro to pay you directly. And again, you can always make sure to be very clear with your clients that this is run through Stripe, which is a very well-known, very well-controlled service. So that way they will not have the issue of any kind of credit card issues in the future. So just keep that in mind, please, if you do happen to do that. Online payments is pretty simple, not a lot to it. So I'm assuming there's probably not a lot of questions that came up for that piece.
Yeah, I think the main thing that we want to let people know, questions always come up, are you always have control over what payment you're going to take. So when you go ahead and set up invoicing in Houzz Pro, you can say, okay, I'm willing to just take ACH, or I'm just willing to take ACH and credit card. And of course, if you're not using online payments, you can always log a payment you receive by check or other payment method. But we do find that clients really love the convenience of this. And of course, it's all tracked automatically in Houzz Pro. And I know we're going to get into the QuickBooks integration, but it's helpful for that as well.
And it means that you get paid very quickly. Payments come within 2 to 3 days, so it's very nice because it's a rapid payment structure. So that can be very helpful, especially for sole proprietors. All right, so we will now take a quick look and move into our lead section. So one thing I definitely want to do is, as we take a look at this dashboard, there's different areas that you want to always understand. So I'll just touch them briefly before we jump into leads, because leads is going to be just a little bit of time. So I just want to make sure we look at it really briefly. All right, so this top bar is very important because this is where you can come in and you'll notice this little button here. If you see that, that means that what we're doing is we're declaring new features that that Houzz Pro has released. So one is going to be for a website. I've never built a website for this account, so that's why it's stating it as a new item. And then for email marketing. So it's a great place to come in, and you can look at your Houzz profile through here. You can look at your website if you have one built. You can look at the email marketing. You can review your Houzz advertising settings, which is a very important feature that will be brought up. And then also your insights, which is a great way to see from an analytics standpoint where you stand within the market and how your advertising is working for you. So it's very important features there. And then this next one is going to be the leads. I'll jump in there in 1 second. There's also the design aspect. So again, it depends on your level that you have with Houzz Pro, but there is the ability to do 3D floor plans. Everyone can do mood boards. You can have your own ideas books, which are very helpful, especially when you're doing some research on design styles, things of that nature. Great place to add in some of your own. You can also obviously browse through Houzz Pro as much as you would, or through Houzz as much as you would like. And then projects, you can jump into any one particular project. It'll allow you to see some of your recent ones here. You can jump into the timeline or tasks here as well. And then obviously this is manage. Manage is a lot based upon you managing your clients, your teams, your vendors. And then you can also jump in and look at time and expense, some financial reporting, which are all great areas. And then there's a phenomenal help area that Houzz Pro has, which is really great. I really would have to say this is one of the best knowledge bases I've ever experienced. And it really is fantastic. So there's a help center. There are video tutorials. You can submit a support inquiry. You can give us a call. So even if your account rep is not available, you can call us even after hours. And then we also have the ability for you to utilize some of our help services 24/7. So just please.
Can you show, because support's always a big question we get. Can you just launch the chat? Because a lot of people say, gosh, my rep is busy, or if I don't have a dedicated rep, that phone number, I want to make sure people can see under help that 800 number is always available. But at the bottom where it says contact support in the blue chat bar, bottom right there, Steve.
Yeah.
I just want to show people what this looks like. I want people to know that there are real people that are manning this chat. The first screen that you get does have some kind of a quick automated question just to make sure we get you routed to the right expert. So just choose software help if that's your question, and then you'll be able to ask your question and you will get connected with a real human being. I just want to make sure people know it's not a bot. So please take advantage of those. If you're in the tool and working, sometimes that's a great way to get quick help on where you are.
And they're a very responsive team. So please reach out to them if you have any immediate needs. They will do everything they can to help you.
And I know Steve touched on a number of other areas that we're not covering today. They are covered in the other webinars that we have done. And so those are being sent out and are available on demand in case you miss anything or just want a refresher. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. And then also just more real quickly, there is also a notification section. If you do have, let's see, a new lead was created or anyone was reaching out to me, you'll see that there as highlighted. All right. So we will jump into the leads area. So you just, again, come back up to this top toolbar and go into all leads. You can also jump into recent leads if you wanted to look at something very specific. So what it'll do is the last few leads that you opened up, it'll have a little drop down for you there. All right, so this is your lead center, and this is a great dashboard for you to utilize. I want to walk you through it real quick just so you can interpret it. So here on the left-hand side, you can see that these are my active open leads that I have right now. And then also it will show me how many of them are new leads. How many of them have I done follow-ups on? Again, this is just a demo account, so I don't have a lot there, but within each of these, what you would see is you would see won jobs, you would see estimates sent out, and the easy way to do it is you would simply just come in here, and if you have an existing lead, so a lead that comes through Houzz, whether that be a direct contact, whether that be our concierge team, or whether that be through our standard system, any of those leads are going to automatically populate in here for you. And one of the things you'll notice is that it has the ability to show you when the lead was produced, when you last contacted the individual. You can change this according to the structure of where you would like to see it because it can realign for you. And then one of the things features that's really nice is this feature on the right. You can see the owner, and the owner, I'll show you in a minute what that is, but the owner is the person that you are assigning to that particular project if you have multiple team members, or let's say multiple project members under your group. So this is really nice because you can then funnel and decide and look at just that particular group and that particular team members assigned tasks, or you can look at it collectively. So it's a really nice way to jump in there. So that's where your existing leads will come into that come through Houzz Pro. Now you can add in leads that you get from anywhere. So let's say you get a lead that is a word of mouth lead, or maybe it's a lead that comes from another pro. Let's say you're a flooring pro and you have someone who has a kitchen remodel and they need you to come in and do the flooring for them. So this is a great way for you to actually add that lead in. So you can create the lead from a new lead. And this is basically, you're just going to create the user's information and I'll do it very simple. Oops, if I can spell. All right. And then you can, when you're creating the lead, you can decide if you have a specific team member you want to assign to that lead.
Right. And for some firms, right, they have somebody focused on the back office. If you have somebody doing that, you can assign leads to the people managing the back office. You can assign estimates to somebody that's working out in the field. It's just kind of a great way to help support that division of labor and keep it organized and know if it's being followed up on.
And so since we're creating a lead from scratch rather than one that was produced and brought in through Houzz, the information is obviously going to be light at this point. So again, we'll start with the left-hand side. You can see here on the left-hand side this is the overview, which shows you this main screen, and this will show your direct interactions with your client and any tasks you may have taken. And then the messages is a place where you can break down and see exactly which messages you have back and forth. You can definitely see that in the overview, but it's better to look in this section if you want to look through a lot of history. If there's a lot of back and forth, you want to jump in here. And you can also define it based upon whether it was an email interaction or a text interaction if you want to break it apart that way. And then this next section is notes. Now, this is an important section for notes as well as files. Notes and files are internal information only. So what that means is that you can create notes for your internal team that your clients will never have visibility to. So this is an important area for you to keep, back-end notes that let's say you're just asking one of your team members to do a task. You don't necessarily want your client to see that back and forth interaction. So you can come in here and actually create your own notes. You can do follow-up notes from calls that you had. Again, you can change whether you can actually call it out as, was it a good discussion? They didn't answer. I want to call them later. You can change the text. You can do some linking of, if you have, let's say you have a link to a site that you want to add in there, you can add the site link in as well to make it very easy for your team members to jump in and do that. And then also you can delete it out if you didn't need the note. I wouldn't recommend very few reasons why you would ever want to delete out information like this, unless it was just something that you realized you didn't need or had to adjust. It's always best to archive things. Now, this doesn't have a natural archive, but it's best to just leave it there for historical purposes rather than deleting things away. If it builds up on you, obviously that's a different model, but I would definitely recommend if you're just keeping light notes, I would always keep them in there. Again, never visible to the clients. Files, same thing as well. Never visible to the clients, but are visible to your internal team members as well as any subcontractors you might assign to this project. So definitely keep in mind, if you are going to attach files to your project, be sure that they are files that you want all team members to have visibility to, because they definitely will have visibility within them. All right, and then the takeoff feature. Takeoff feature is actually a really cool feature that we'll go into in more depth on another meeting, but takeoffs is a really great way to do very quick material takeoff calculations. You would just throw a set of blueprint plans in here and then do very quick takeoff, material takeoff calculations. It's really a great tool. I'm really excited about it. We've been using it with some of our clients, and I have one who just absolutely loves it. It has saved this guy ridiculous amounts of time. So if you have any interest in that, please reach out to your CSM if you have one assigned, and they'll be more than happy to do a demo for you.
Yeah, or jump in. It's actually one of our most intuitive tools. Upload your plan. I had someone raving the other day about how great it was. It took even the largest file. They didn't have to compress it or do anything with it. They would love the roof pitch and many other things. Great. So we have a question come in, which I'll answer because I've been working on this lately, Steve, which is if you're getting kind of spammy leads through your Houzz profile. So we're doing, I assume, Philip, that those are calls. It looks like they're calls. So we are making some adjustments to remove any that are below a certain length. If you have any specific examples that you can flag for us, that would be helpful because we are doing a lot to clean that up. We want to make sure we're not accidentally removing anything that is a good lead, but any information that you can flag for us to help us keep that inbox as clean for you as possible. Please do send those along. You can just email me, Liza, Liza at houzz.com, and let me know which ones they are.
Great. Thank you. All right. And then the last piece here is the estimate. So you would be able to create an estimate right here from the lead. So that's a really nice feature because you've already started this, right? So you've already got some of your clients' information in here. Very easy to take those next steps. Before I touch anything there, I want to make sure to show you, and I'll jump in there very quickly just so you can see. Oh, and this is also, so see, you can see that the system's kind of prompting me to say, hey, it doesn't look like you've set up your bank account. Would you like to set that up? So you can always get rid of that if it doesn't happen to associate with you, or it's a great way for you to then see. So you can then create your first estimate out of here for this client. And then you also have the ability to see those ones that are active, archived. Again, one thing that happens is Houzz Pro does not delete files such as estimates, such as invoices. They will be archived. That way they are always there for future viewing, because especially from a financial perspective, you never want things to disappear. You would want them to be archived and out of your way, but you don't want them to disappear. So just keep that in mind, is things don't delete, they just archive away. All right, so the next thing I want to just show you is right here on the right-hand side. This is also a very important piece of the lead. So you'll see here is you have the ability to change the lead stage. So let's say I've already had a conference call with this customer, then I could always say that I'm already connected. And then that way, when I'm looking back at my lead collective, I'll know what stage this particular one is in. And then again, one of the things I can do is I can unassign the lead, so it just comes up to us as a collective, or I can assign the lead to a very specific team member. So that's a great way, especially if you have somebody who handles leads for different areas, then that's a great way to associate those leads to the person who maintains that particular area for you. And then also lead details. So you can start to add in some of the lead details here. So obviously your client's name, and then the lead source. This is a great way for you to always keep track of how did you get that lead. So since you're actually creating this lead, more than likely, this lead is either going to be a referral, client referral, pro referral. Maybe you got it through a digital media source. And then with that, there's a nice area where you can just pick other, and you can also manage the lead source as well and edit this here. So you can pick which lead source that you're dealing with, and then pick a very specific source that you have, as well as you can create one. If it doesn't exist there, you can create your own lead source if it's not one of the ones pre-listed. All right, so once you then create that, again, you can add in all of the information like their budget, their estimated revenue, project type. That one's obviously going to be a very important one because there are times when you may want to look at your projects as a collective and understand how many basement remodels am I doing? How many bathroom remodels am I dealing with? So that way you have a better interpretation of what your team members are going to be doing in the near future for you.
And it's another great reason to organize your lead sources the way that you want to make sure you have all the categories you want. It will allow you to do some analysis in the future on how well your different lead sources are performing for your business.
Absolutely. And that's a really important one is you always want to have the ability to kind of step back and take a look at where am I performing best? Because that's one of the things that, especially what Houzz wants to do, is they always want to optimize it with you. So it's a great way for us to then kind of review it collectively and see what's improving for you, what works best for you, and then really try to go after that more and more if possible. All right, so then obviously you can just add in all of the rest of their information here. And then once again, you can set up online payments. It's going to prompt you one more time if you did want to set up online payments. And the reason it's asking is because it wants to make it very easy for you to then go in and add in your customer's payment method. So that way you can feel that you're going to be very safe in that the project is going to go through. You're going to get paid. Online payments really make it a lot safer and a lot easier to make sure and verify that you will get paid.
And I will say that, if you are somebody that does large projects and maybe you're typically using ACH or check for the majority of payments, it is often convenient to take a retainer or a change order payment or other payment that is smaller in a more convenient way, again, for that homeowner, whether it's ACH or credit card. We often have folks, if they're still reluctant to do large payments through the system, to process all their small payments through the system for convenience.
Yes, and you can actually build the retainer as a separate payment if you do happen to use the Houzz Pro CRM. It's a great way where you can create the payment structure to break it out and just deal with those individual pieces and timing. So just keep that in mind as well. All right. So now we are going to, let's take a quick look here. I just want to make sure to hit these points here. So if you're ever, let's say you're going and you're going to do a client-facing meeting and you like to take a lot of notes on paper. People often do that. I still do it all the time. So you can definitely print out the lead that you have because it'll be a great way for you to take that collective of information. You can also snooze the lead, which is a really nice feature. And what you're basically doing is you're snoozing the lead until you want it to pop up again and show it to you. So what it's going to do is it will email you out and say that, hey, please take a look at this lead that you snoozed off a week ago. So I haven't heard that a lot of people do that with leads, but just keep in mind, let's say you've reached out once and then you want to have a follow-up, but you don't want to have to try to remember that yourself. You could just set this little snooze and then reach back out to them in a week if you would like to, or set a specific time frame. You don't have to do a week. You don't have to do a month, 3 months. It can be the next day. So just whatever your time frame is, you can definitely set it to. All right. And then once you have this, if you have created an estimate, or you can then, even if you haven't created an estimate yet, you can actually convert this into a project. Very easy to do. So I'm not going to build that whole thing right now, just different area. So this, one of the things it's going to say though, is it's going to say, oh, it looks like you must have moved this one into one project because you're now starting to produce it as a real project. So you can go in and adjust that if necessary, because it doesn't have to state that, even if you're building a project without having won it yet. So just keep that part in mind, and we can always work through that with you if you have any questions. All right, so if I go back up to my main leads, I want to make sure to then take a quick look at the other way lead sources can come in. So you can import leads from a file. So this would be a CSV file. The template is connected right here. And it's very simple. I believe it's only a handful of columns. You just have to make sure you hit those columns correctly, because otherwise it won't import. So just keep that in mind. Again, if you ever get stuck, have any issues, please don't hesitate to reach out to our support teams or your CSM. We'll be more than happy to help you there.
Yeah, it's super easy to do. And we're really trying to make it easy for you to be able to use Houzz Pro as your central lead management source. So it's very easy to import leads from a spreadsheet, from other systems, map them quickly, and get all the information in so they can turn seamlessly into projects and you don't lose any of the information that you have on them.
Absolutely. And we do recommend that as much as possible, you try to keep one location for your leads, because it does become very cumbersome and difficult when you're dealing with multiple systems related to your leads. So, Houzz Pro has great functionality within this space. There's also the last one I wanted to show you is you can import from email. So this one's very nice as well. So when you have this, you can just basically put in your client's email address. And then what it's going to do is it's going to allow that lead to get imported in. And then you can actually pull in the back and forth communication via email that you're having with your client, which is very helpful, because then you're not having to drag and pull that information in. It's automatically populating in for you. So great ways to bring in external lead sources.
Steve, sorry if I missed it. Are we going to go over the Gmail integration?
The Gmail integration? Sure.
Yes, let's do that.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, takes you there. Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. So what this would do is this would allow you to then create the extension onto your Chrome. And it just, again, obviously, depending on what you're using, but most people would use probably Gmail. So this would allow you to add that extension on, which would then have the integration point with Houzz Pro. Anything else for that one?
Yeah, so I just want to let people know, if they have the extension, then basically if you're used to working out of your Gmail account, all the functionality that you see here in Houzz Pro, you can basically have right from your Gmail window. So if you put in the extension, you can actually communicate back and forth with your leads and clients. Everything will get logged into Houzz Pro. So again, if your preference is that Gmail interface and you're used to working there and you like working there, we've made it seamless for you to be able to stay working in your Gmail interface, but still log everything into Houzz Pro as if you were working here directly. So if you are a Gmail user, highly recommend.
Yeah, it works very well and very easy to use, very seamless. So just definitely keep that part in mind. All right, so let's see if there's any last pieces to the leads. Sorry, just looking through my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, this is definitely an important one that we want to take a quick look at. All right, so if I jump back into this particular lead, one of the things you can do, and I would certainly recommend doing this as much as possible, is when you're doing a response to a potential homeowner that you may work with, you can do a very customized response to them. And you can also make it where, especially if you just spend a few minutes doing something that would differentiate you from the next pro that's just going to hit the little button that says, "Hi, I heard about your project. Would you like to connect?" It's always nice to make it a little bit more personal in that reach out, because those homeowners are getting 3 to 5 pros that are connecting with them. And if those 3 to 5 pros all reach out the exact same way, then they just may randomly pick. But if you reach out with a very customized response, and it actually maybe gives a quick little breakdown on your company itself, that really can have an impact on the way that homeowner perceives you as a pro. So just keep that in mind. And once you do that, you can actually create it as a template. What's really nice is when you create those templates, then you can just use it over and over again and change little bits of it if you want to customize for each individual. So just keep that in mind. It's a really great way to do it. Also, if you needed to, you can also add recipients in here that you would want to CC on that message. So let's say maybe it's somebody who does not work within the Houzz Pro system, but you want them to have some visibility on this particular item, you could certainly add them as a CC. So just keep that in mind as well. You can customize it as well. See, you can add an image. You can attach a file. So if you wanted to add a file, you could do a link. You could do a link to your Houzz profile. You can do a link to your website. So those are all great ways to kind of differentiate yourself. You can also text them. This is something that I am pushing on my pros quite often. Think about these days, understand that the homeowners are now of this younger generation who has now grown up, and they are very much in the mode of texting is so now your mobile device is your main hub for most people that are out there these days. So one of the things you want to keep in mind is that you want to make sure your reach outs are getting to your clients. So if you email someone and you're not getting a response, I would then definitely then recommend texting them that very next day to see if you can get a response back from them. And definitely this is one thing that comes up quite often is not just for the construction industry, but period. Any kind of sales, any kind of service that you would happen to do, you definitely want to reach out to a potential client 5 to 6 times before you stop. Because if you do that enough, remember, homeowners are busy. They have their own lives. They have children. They have work. So if you reach out to them when it's your working day, it might also be their working day. So just keep in mind that it's not that they're not interested. It's just that they just maybe they're bogged down with what's going on in front of them today. So just keep in mind that constant reach out, it's not badgering them because they wanted you to reach out to them. That's why you're doing it. So don't feel that you're badgering them, but keep coming back to them and giving them another opportunity to go, oh, I now have time to reach out and talk to you. So please do keep that in mind. It is a great way to get clients to get very directly interacted with you. And like I said, customizing it will have a big impact because it will differentiate you from the next pro. All right. So this for leads, I just want to make sure any last questions on leads. We have just a little bit more time, so I want to make sure to hit the last area. Oh, sorry, Liza, you're muted.
All right, we're good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. This last piece that I want to jump into for us is
sorry, we had one pop up. So when you used import from email, where do you then see that lead information show up?
It will show up.
Let's say they use that forwarding. Yes, it's going to show up right in your list as a new lead.
And then you can differentiate what your lead source was by coming to the right and seeing that lead source. And you can even pick off, you can have it break down. So you can specifically look at, let's say those ones you imported. You want to look at not the collective. You just want to look at your imports. So you could just pick the lead source and go through and go, oh, okay, now I can see the ones that I got direct mail, the ones I got phone calls, the ones where I actually built it myself. So it's a great way for you.
Yes, sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Steve. Always try to do this a little bit. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. And then you can always go in and edit that lead. So if you want to edit the lead information, add more information, change the name, etc., if you're not completely happy with how it came in from the email, very easy, again, to go in and change that, like from new opportunity to the person's name or project name or however you want to identify them. And
you'll notice on any lead that comes through Houzz, the only areas you cannot change how the sourcing, and you can't change the associated email. So just keep that in mind, and that'll help you to kind of differentiate those leads as well, to understand that if you see these areas grayed out, it means that it was a lead that came directly through Houzz Pro. All right, and there's a fantastic help area as well. So please, anytime you need any help, if you cannot reach one of us, or again, if it's in an after hours time frame and you're just, you're sitting in bed because you can't sleep and you're trying to work on stuff because you're a sole proprietor and you have to spend all your waking hours doing everything you can for your business, this is a great way to come in and do quick tutorials on little pieces that you may want to play around with. And again, we are always here to help, but these are great ways for you to interact with the system on your own as well. All right, so I will now jump into email marketing. So once again, you want to come up to this top toolbar, and the third option in is your email marketing. So one thing I want to mention, email marketing. So some people are kind of a little bit confused on what email marketing is. Email marketing is a way for you to blast out personalized information to your client base or your potential client base, depending on what sourcing you're using for the distribution. So you can utilize it for various different things. I mean, you can actually use it for just about anything you would possibly want to. Some of the generics are, to set up a consultation for holiday greetings, which are very common that you see. Like if you ever bought a home, you would always have the escrow person or the title person would always reach out and say, hey, happy birthday, Merry Christmas, whatever it happens to be for them. So just keep that kind of thing in mind. And then also you can do monthly newsletters, which are a great way, especially with previous clients. It is a great way to do a very simple reach out that is not badgering them, but at the same time is saying, hey, I'm still acknowledging you as one of my clients. If there's anything I can ever do for you in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always here to help. You can do spotlight articles for yourself where you can say, I have this great project that I did, and I'd like to highlight it to my customer base. You can do that as well. So just keep that
Steve, let me just chime in and build on what you were saying. Just to clarify, email marketing is a one-to-many communication. So might not be the best for birthdays, but definitely great for holiday greetings.
Sure.
But you're sending to more than one person. We're going to show you how to do that in a beautifully formatted way. And it's going to your own lists. And we're going to show you a little bit about how to get to those. But there are your own lists of leads, clients. It could even be vendors. So one person had a great idea, like, oh, they have a change of address or a change of contact or even a change of staff that you want to communicate out to your vendors. You can do that using our email marketing tool. So go ahead, Steve. Sorry about that.
Great. That's great. All right. So again, we'll start on the left-hand side. I always want to start in kind of the same way so you see things in a nice round movement. Okay. So the way I would recommend if you're going to build an email marketing campaign is you want to start with your list. And the reason you want to start with your list, because this is the communication that you're about to build is based upon who are you reaching out to. So you want to understand the audience that you're reaching out to before you build what you're reaching out with. So if you're just going to blast something out to all, you don't really necessarily have to build these separated lists. But if you are kind of targeting very specific homeowners with very specific info, maybe you have certain clients that are higher end, maybe you have certain clients that are in the mid-range, so you want to reach out to them slightly differently, that's a great way where you can do that. So what you can see is I have different lead sources that I have pulled in all of my information from. And I can create a new list if I want to, or I can just pick from the existing list that I have. Again, very easy to build a list. There's very little to it. All right, so now all you have to do is add in the context. So you can see, am I adding from my existing list? Am I going to import it from a CSV file once again? Or am I going to just create the list or create the contact on my own? Or can I import it from Gmail? So again, you have multiple options here. So it's a great way for you to then go and build that list. And then one of the things it's going to ask you is it's going to ask if you want to select from an existing list. So I'm going to do and pick my test list that I just created. And you can easily add multiple contacts and existing emails to this list. All right, so you'll notice here that this has the existing group that I had pre-built, but at any time I can go in, even after I create that list, and then go in and make an edit and pull in those people if I needed to add in someone else. So let's say I realize, oops, forgot to add in a contact. I can go back to my list and add in a new contact there as well. All right, so then the next thing you want to do, once you've built your list, you want to come to your templates area. And what's really nice is if you build your own templates, they will populate here and they will always stay there, so they will never disappear. And then we also have 5 pre-built templates that are great to use. So the client reach outs, schedule an appointment, the holiday greetings, project spotlights, and then the monthly newsletters and emails. Now, with this, you can customize these to exactly what you want. One of the things is I opened up the template. So you'll notice that it's not letting me do anything. I can see it, but I can't do anything. That's because it's showing you the template. You need to duplicate that template to actually alter if you're going to utilize the template itself rather than building one on your own. So you just need to rename that file for yourself. And once you do that, it'll open itself up in edit mode. All right, so you can see here in the top left, this is the name that I have for it. So if I need to rename it, I can easily do that. And then again, here on the right, this is going to be how you're going to kind of travel through building the email marketing. So you would just click on the area that you would like to adjust. So let's say probably a good one is let's look at this image here. So with the image, we've already got an image in there, but if you had a specific one you wanted to, you could either upload one or grab one from existing off your device that you're working on. You can apply some effects to it as well. So if you wanted to have some specific effects that might be more eye-catching, you can certainly apply those here. And then this one is very important. This is going to be, not this actual piece here, but I'll show you in 1 second. This one right here. This action item is going to be very important because what you can do is you can create clickable links behind all of these individual features. So you can make a link here to either your Houzz Pro page or to your website or to, let's say, your email if you wanted them to directly reach out to you that way. It's a great way you can link things together. All of this text is customizable. You can see it works just the same way as a Word would work, has all the same functionality. You can customize this to whatever suits your needs. If you have a certain design style, a certain type of font you may use for your business, you'll still be able to. In most cases, we have a pretty large grouping here of fonts available for you. So just keep that in mind as you walk through it. Again, as we step our way through, you'll notice that I can play with each and every area. And every time I click on a different piece, you'll notice that the bar on the right changes because that's my taskbar associated to the item I clicked into. So just, again, keep that in mind because that'll be very helpful as you step your way through. All right. And then obviously here, this is the type of item that I was mentioning. So right now you'll notice that this is just a black box, right? It just says something simple, but it doesn't have an action. So that's an important one we need to fix. And then down here at the bottom, you'll notice that you can link all of your social media. A great place to do it. And then when you're reviewing this, it's always important to take a look because you can also view it from a mobile perspective. And that can be very, very helpful, especially if you're doing reach outs that way. You want to make sure that it's going to function properly, both on a PC, Mac, as well as on a mobile device. And then what's nice is there are some features you can also turn off. So let's say there's something that is a bit hefty of a visual and you don't want that to bog down someone's phone. Well, you can turn off those features to make sure that it's not going to apply that to the mobile version and it'll just apply it to the PC version. So again, great way that you can customize this and really play around with these templates. I would definitely always recommend building it in the desktop mode and then reviewing the mobile mode. Unless you are specifically going to do a mobile campaign, I would always build it in the desktop mode because it's just easier to interpret and look at. All right, so I will take the next steps here. Just want to make sure, were there any questions, anything that's popped up for us here?
I think the one question we had was just, can you just show the system lists again and explain the system lists?
Sure. Could you clarify system lists?
Yeah, so click on lists and we can
sure,
talk about it. So when you're in lists, you've kind of got your email lists and system lists. And the nice thing is that Houzz Pro automatically pulls in the leads, clients, and vendors that you already have in our system. And then if you want to create a mailing list or a particular list for a campaign, and I suggest you think about your lists in terms of campaigns, but you can build off of the system list. So the leads, clients, vendors that are already in Houzz Pro that you've been adding and building over time are easily accessible, and you can pull them all in to a campaign list. So if you want to send a holiday greeting to clients and leads, so folks that maybe didn't become projects but might have the potential to be projects, again, you can create those lists and create any combination of mailing lists that you want.
Great. And yes, and one thing to keep in mind is the ones on the top are the lists you've generated that you're going to use against the campaign. As Liza had said, the ones on the bottom are all of yours that exist. And then what it is it's the contact type is based upon how you have them in the system, whether it be through a direct lead or whether it be through a client that you pulled in. So you can see these ones, I actually created these clients versus these leads that were pre-generated. And then if you also had vendors, you could even distribute to a vendor list as well. All right. And then if we jump into the campaign itself. So once you've created the list, once you've created the template that you're interested in utilizing, now you just go and create a new campaign. You can also, if you've created previous campaigns, one thing that's really nice, especially if you're doing things like newsletters, you can just take that one and either view it or duplicate it. So then you can just make quick updates and change up little bits rather than having to reproduce it from scratch. But if you were going to create a new campaign rather than adjust one that was existing, again, what you would do is come in here, pick from either the pre-existing templates or from your template, and pick the one that you were playing around with. And then you want to give it a campaign name. So and then you'll call out what type of campaign that you're going to be producing. Is it you're asking for reviews from your clients? Do you want to promote something? Is it some kind of welcome message, maybe a thank you after you've produced for a specific client, or if there's something else that you may want to reach out to them for? So just keep that in mind as to which one you would want to do. If I call it project highlight, it creates the campaign, and you can see that it brings me back into that same area where we were building the template. So you can build the template by itself, or you could just start a campaign and build it as you're going. I definitely recommend building those lists and templates before you build the campaign, because sometimes when you're trying to do it all as one thing, it can be a bit of a time crunch because your brain starts to think, I want to get this thing out. Whereas if you just build the individual pieces, by the time you get here, everything's preset and you're basically ready to push it out. The only thing you want to make sure to do at this point is this feature is an incredible feature, and I can't say enough about how important this feature is. This little audit feature, if you have anything that has a broken link, never was linked together, it is going to show you in this little audit space. And what's really nice about it is you can see that what it's saying is on certain areas, and as I hover over, it actually shows me exactly which ones it's relating to, or you can just hit that little button and it'll bring you straight to it. So what it's doing is it's saying that I don't have any text associated with this in here, so I want to alter that if I need to. If I don't need to, because I don't need to call out the name of the photo, I don't need to change that part. This one, on the other hand, button links. This one is incredibly important. You always want to make sure that this is always set up properly, because you'll notice right here that what it's saying is my write a review link does not work. I need to go in and create that. So all I need to do is just jump in here, go to my Houzz Pro page, pull the URL, drop it in here, and I'm good to go. And then once you have all of that put together and set up, again, you just come back to this main one, and then you'll go continue to send. And I'm sorry, I stepped forward a little too quickly. Also, if you do happen to build the template as you're creating the campaign, you can hit this little add to my templates button, so it'll automatically save that one to your templates as well. So just keep that in mind. All right, so if you go to send it, then this is where you can pull from. So you'll see that it is pulling my information related to my connected Gmail account. So if you want that to be something different, you just need to disconnect it, so that way you can associate what you need to. Or if you do connect it, then that way it makes it a lot easier for your clients in your interaction. Again, all the interaction then becomes trackable, very easy to see. And then sending.
And let me just clarify in there. So we have a Gmail integration if you want it to come directly from your Gmail account. If you're not able to do that, we have a default email address that we will use that will still reply and come back to you to your email account, but it will not be exactly your address as you would have with a Gmail account. Again, both work just fine, but it's an option for Gmail integration.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. And then the next one is picking those recipients. So which list was it that I created that I want to utilize? Do I want to just utilize one of my system lists because maybe I'm just sending something out to my entire collective, or is it a pre-built list that I had very specific for? So on this one, I have a pre-built, so I'm going to pick that one. And then a subject line. This is where you can just create your own subject line. And this is obviously the header line that shows up in the email. So again, that's an impactful place too, because you want to make sure you're describing exactly what you're reaching out to them about. I often recommend that whatever your statement is at the end of it, put your company name there, because that then gives them an understanding of what you're reaching out to them for and who you are. All right. And then also one thing that's very important here and a great tool is you can actually go in here and create where you could go and do and test your own template before you even send it out. So it's a really nice way for you to verify that everything looks exactly like you want it to look. So what you do is you just add in email addresses, you hit a little test send, and then that actually shows up. And then what it does is it brings this open for you and allows you to see the email distribution campaign as it would be seen by clients. So again, really good way for you to just verify that what you're sending to your clients is exactly what you want to send them, exactly how you want to send it. Okay, so let me go back to the edit real quick. All right. So once again, I'll just go over this very quickly. You can jump into different areas and play around, but I would certainly recommend is going through this walkthrough is going to be very helpful because it really allows you to kind of see everything. You can even change, by the way, the background colors, the colors of the buttons, so it's saying you can change the text color, the background. So if you have customized colors that you happen to utilize, you can absolutely choose that there. There's even the ability, if you have a specific RGB that your company logo is built on, there are a lot of them that like to have very specifics. You can actually utilize that here as well. So you'd be able to actually write in the hex code if you happen to have that information. So do keep that in mind as well. All right. So that's just about do it for email marketing. Were there any questions on that? Oh, sorry, there's one last piece here. I want to show you that after you do send it out, you will have analytics that you will be able to review after it is sent out. And you can see how many you sent it to, how many have opened it, how many have actually clicked through and come into your profile, to your email, to your website, whatever your linkage was, how many actually did that, and then also how many unsubscribed to it. So it's, again, a great way for you to go in and see how effective these campaigns are for you. And again, nice pro tips in here as well on how to utilize these. Great ways to get quick information. All right, and I believe that would be it for all of our presentation for today. Liza, is there anything else that we have that we want to go over?
I think we got it covered. Thank you so much for all the great information and detail, Steve. Great job. Again, we are recording this, so be on the lookout. We'll be sending all 3 sessions out on demand to make it easy to have as a reference. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and hope to see you soon.